welcome back to Queenie Connection. Thanks for joining us. Well, lots on this show. Coming up, we'll have local author Cynthia Windsor on the program with a new children's book. Also more about the Belleville Public Library, but joining us now, a familiar face, especially if you go to the Lakeshore Farm Stand in Rossmore down in Prince Edward County. Local photographer Mark Hopper is with us. Mark, so great to meet you in this situation. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. I appreciate it.
We see your beautiful photos everywhere, social media, Weather Network, magazines. When did you start picking up a camera?
Well, it's funny. I moved from Toronto 20 years ago to the Bay of Quinte area, and really that was I had more time. I mean, when you come from Toronto, it's a concrete jungle, but coming out here, it's like a canvas that, I started taking pictures. I started saying, hey, hold on for a second. This feels good. It looks good, and I just kept going from there. And as I went along, I just gained more momentum. As far as my images were getting better, and people would say that. People say, can I use it for a magazine, or can I use it for this? So yeah, I started 20 years ago, really. But just a side note, Lindsay, is that every year we came from a big family of 7 kids. And every year in my stocking, I got a disposable camera and no one else got. So maybe that was the catalyst of my photo work, right? Maybe that was a little nudge by my parents knowing something I didn't know when I was 10 or 11, right? So yeah, I took it up 20 years ago, and I've been going pretty strong ever since.
All wildlife, Mark? What's your primary focus?
I'm a generalist. Okay, I love landscape and I love wildlife, but at the end of the day, I've done sporting events. Obviously, Skyhawks I have on here. I've done football. I've done hockey. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. What would I enjoy the most is it's a 50-50 between landscape and wildlife. Landscape is always there. Wildlife, you got to find it, right? Because it's never in front of you. You got to look for it. But when I wake up in the morning and I look out my window, I can see landscape right away. So it's right there. It's available.
How far have your images been going for, Mark? I mean, we see them on social all the time. You mentioned the Weather Network. That's a long-time collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, once I'll be honest with you, about I think 2018, I was recognized with the Royal Ontario Museum as Wildlife Photographer of the Year runner-up. And once that got out there, Toronto Life contacted me, and of course, being from Toronto, Toronto Life magazine is one of the biggest magazines that I could ever have hoped for. They wanted to do a story on my images in the area that I lived. So that was kind of crazy because it's so real that you grow up looking at that magazine, right? And then here they're sending me an inbox on Facebook saying, hey, are you interested? And Canadian Geographic has been a great supporter of my wildlife images and my landscape images. And over the course of the last 10, 15 years, I've been featured several times throughout the magazine.
Let's talk about giving back, Mark, because you're everywhere across the region. We see you everywhere. So what did you do kind of to help the community at the onset of the pandemic?
Well, during the pandemic, when we hear about our loved ones can't get out of their long-term care homes and they're stuck where they are and they can't see past the window, I decided at one point that I would do up a poster-style image constantly through the pandemic and hand hundreds and hundreds out to the long-term care homes. So that's what I did. I started doing that. I started giving those out to the. I'm going to say I did about 3,000 posters. So yeah, I did that, and that really lifted a lot of people's spirits.
What are you up to for 2025? What's on your agenda so far? Anything booked?
Yeah, 2025 is crazy. It's we have a book that we worked on for Northumberland that's supposed to be out this year. I do a calendar annually. The calendar raises money for different functions. This past year in 2024, it raised money for mental health and addiction. And we did 250 calendars out. We gave half them out, and the other half we sold, and the money went back to different areas that needed it throughout the community. 7 or 12, I think it was 13 years, I did the Christmas sharing program, and we donated the money back to that, and I did a calendar for. So this is I'm going to say my 16th or 17th year of doing a calendar up. So any chance I had to give back to the community, and I'm constantly being asked, and I constantly support the community when they ask, can you do a frame print that we're going to auction off at one of our nights we're having, and the money's going to a good cause. And it's hard to say no. It's different since I've retired, and I'm at the stand 4 months a year. It's a little different when I don't have the same funds behind me to go up and do a picture because they're expensive, and obviously I want to donate. So last year I did I donated 7 prints last year that were framed. for different auctions. So as long as I can keep doing that, Lindsay, and giving back, what I'm gracefully enough to get is the eye for photography. As long as I can giving back that way, I'm happy to do so.
And speaking of giving back, Mark, do you have some speaking engagements coming up locally for the year?
Well, what I have is that I have a presentation. I didn't do it last year. I do 2 presentations a year, and it's usually through one of the local community centers here in Belleville or the Quinte region, and they're free to attend. And what it is that I'm going to say before last year, I get about 100 people at each of the presentations, and it's free. And those engagements like that, I mean, people take up on it. I've got a fairly good following on Twitter, and I had, obviously Facebook. I've got 3,000 people, but it filters, right? So like Belleville Neighbors, I could put something on there and 70,000 people. So once they find out it's free, once they find out that I'm doing something, I'm going to give them a bit of a hint on how I'm doing it or share some of my ideas and thoughts. That's what I like to do. I don't want to tell someone how to do it, but I want to give them some thoughts on it.
Yeah, what's your username, Mark, for folks who want to follow you on socials?
In Instagram, I got hacked a few years ago, so it's hop_the_shark, and it's Mark Hopper on Facebook, and Twitter is the Hopper Mark.
Well, folks who are watching this interview that are inspired by you and your work and want to pick up a camera for the first time, what are some of your recommendations for them?
Well, what I say to folks is I say don't invest heavily. See if you can borrow or use or buy a used one on Facebook, or get one that's not going to be, if it's put aside, it's not going to be a lot of money sitting there, okay? But at the end of the day, if it's something that you start thinking, hey, I'm getting good at this, then you can invest in that. It's like anything, if you want to become better at it, you practice. And that's what I'll get. I'll go to the parks. I get a park pass every year, Ontario Park Pass, for $120. Last year I used it 200 times because I'm practicing. Like, it's not because I need another picture of a deer, right? It's because I want to go, I want to practice. You have to know how to get out of the car. You have to know how to approach things. And even though I've been fortunate and featured several times in different magazines, I never am complete. Okay, I'm always learning. And I think those folks out there that are starting out have to say, let's get a camera that's affordable. Okay, you get a camera for about $500, more than enough money to put out into a hobby until it takes you over, and you say, hey, this is a good hobby. I'm going to invest more into it because I enjoy it thoroughly, right? But if you put the camera over to the side and you never use it again, well, it's there. It was $500. You know what I mean? It's not like a car payment, right? So, anyways, that's what my feeling is. My feeling is if you buy it, don't go high. Okay, just buy something that's affordable, something that's not going to be missed if you stop doing it, but something that you can upgrade.
And that's good advice to end on. Once again, Mark Hopper, local photographer here in Quinte. Mark, thanks so much for really cheering us up. You really cheer up our news feeds and our social media feeds on a daily basis, especially in the bleak of winter. So we appreciate it, and we'll see you at the farm stand in a couple months.
I'll see you there, and I appreciate this interview. Thanks so much. Take care.
Take care.